Yep, that's good.
Here you go. Okay, so I'll present myself in a minute, just to give you a short intro. Maybe we are building Android devices for a couple of years now, and one of the things many clients are asking for are kiosks, and I feel there are like 5 different ways of implementing kiosks in Android or kiosk-like functionality. And today I would rather like to have maybe a discussion of what did you see in your career and in your experience, and how did you do that? I will show a couple of ideas how we do things, and why. Because I think there are too many different ways. And I know that Android also offers some standard ways, which, to be honest, our clients didn't like, for one reason or another. So that's an open discussion, and please feel free to interrupt me anytime. So let's talk about kiosks today. As I said, my name is Igor. I'm into Android for, I don't know, 15 years now, I think. I used to dive quite deep into Android. I have implemented my own memory management for Android OS. I've implemented our own interprocess communication 10 years ago, I think. And then I was one of the maintainers of the original Android Raspberry Pi repo on GitHub with Peter Yoon and some other really amazing developers. It was a great time. And then 7 years ago, I decided to start a company, Emteria. Some of you may have heard of that. Some of you are new. And what we do is we basically help clients build devices with Android, any types of Android. So it's AOSP, it's Android Automotive, it's all the types of products with the idea of long-term maintenance. So we do customization and security audits and many other things, but our main business is keeping those devices up to date, making sure they're secure, making sure they're maintainable and buildable. And this is where, clients come with different types of BSP. Some of them have zip archives, some of them have some weird local checkouts. And this is where we enforce a bunch of, I would say, restrictions and say this is how it should be. And then we start to standardize some things and try to apply those rules. So this is our main goal. And during this time at Emteria, we saw a lot of requests for kiosks. Like let's talk maybe about that for a second. So what is a kiosk and why is it good? I think most of you will know kiosk is basically refers to a restricted way of operating on the device. It can be one app, it can be some video playback. So basically, we want to restrict the navigation rules. Maybe some devices will need a little bit more, maybe some devices will need nothing. And the idea is to maintain the controlled environment of the device and keep everything secure and prevent the user from changing things he should not be changing. And obviously, this is only reasonable if you have an interactive screen. So if you have a touch screen, because if you have no touch, if you have no mouse connected, and then you already have a kiosk. Because if the user cannot change anything, if you cannot input anything, that's the best way of implementing a kiosk, right? So this is always my recommendation to all the clients. And if they say, okay, they need an interactive scenario. So if they need actually the user to do something on the device, then we're talking about kiosk. And before diving into different types, maybe we'll do a short, summary of what prevents Android from being kiosk-like from the beginning. So the first, obviously, this is the status bar. So you can, it's super helpful. You can see the time and the network status. So even some of our clients want to have that. They say, oh, can we keep the status bar, but please don't make it expandable. Just put it there and let it shown, but don't show any notifications and anything, because it can turn into an issue if the user just scrolls down, not scrolls, like wipes down and then say, go to settings and then start apps. This is not what the client wants. So for that, in order to avoid that, there is actually a system API for that. It's hidden. I think it's not available to regular apps, But if you are building a system level app, so if you can compile your application against the framework, you could use that. I think in our case, we use a relay, which is basically a way of renaming constants to be able to develop in Android Studio. So that's why it says Android status bar manager relay, but in Android it's just status bar manager, and then you can use all those constants like disable expand. It means the user cannot swipe down. The status bar will still be visible, but it will not be usable. And then you can say you don't want to see any alerts and you don't want to see any notification buttons. That means that even if apps will start sending notifications to the user will not see them because he cannot get there anyway. So it's stupid in that way. And if you have set up your flags, you can call that get the system service. There is a status bar manager, and the status bar manager, you can say, hey, please just disable those things. And then Android will prevent the status bar from being expanded until you actually enable them again. So this is how it works from the system level. And the same, almost the same works for the navigation bar. So we're speaking about this. I think this is those are two things. It's the task bar on the left side and navigation bar on the right side. And you will see that, the back button and the home button might be helpful if we're speaking about like single app versus multi-app mode. So if the user only have a single app he can use, or if the user should be able to switch between 2 or 3 apps. Recents is definitely not helpful. So sometimes maybe, but usually you need to make sure that they are clean. So if as soon as you activate the kiosk, you don't want the recents to have like apps from a couple of minutes ago. So usually you don't need them. And you can still do the same. So you can restrict it by using the same system API. So here you can see that we are using disable recent, disable home, and disable back. It's similar to what we had here. So we had here expand notification icons and alerts. So it works the same way. Again, here we're using a relay. It's our own implementation, but you can use status bar manager, the constants from there. And then you do the same. You do disable, and then they will also disappear. So those buttons on the right will disappear. And now if you're using the launcher, like launcher 3, it will not change the taskbar. So what we are doing is we're changing the launcher. We're basically implementing our own version of the launcher for Kiosk launcher without those things. But if you're using the launcher and you know how to get rid of it easily, I will be really happy to discuss that and to learn more about that. I know that there is a really crazy, well, not sure if it's crazy, but it's a really interesting development where Android actually gives the control of the navigation bar to the launcher itself. So launcher decides if Android should show the standard long black navigation bar on the bottom, or if launcher itself will draw those buttons. There is a status bar manager implementation which is only allowed to speak to the launcher, and usually it's only launcher 3. So it's really difficult to control remotely, but it's kind of possible. So if you have experienced any other ways of doing this and hiding those parts of the system without re-implementing the launcher, without changing those things, because we don't want to do that, right? We want to stick as close to AOSP as possible and just do some API calls and then hide things which user doesn't want to have. So those are two things which might impact a kiosk situation, right? If you set in the user and you say, okay, this is my app, this is what I want to use, we should hide them. Any questions so far? No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a couple.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So how come you're not using MDM solutions? Is it only for custom devices you're doing this, or for example, Android Enterprise, Knox Manage, those kind of systems?
Yeah. How do they do that? So, for example, if you take a look at I don't want to call the names, but if you
No.
take a look at one or two, the most prominent ones, they actually install their own launcher for that.
Yes.
And if you install your own launcher, then it's basically the same. So you don't need MDM to hide those things. You only need MDM if you want to control the device remotely.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of clients who have static devices, and then
Mm.
you don't have MDM.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
I was just going to ask, which API level are you working with here? Because these APIs have changed over time.
I think this is from Android 15.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure it's compatible back to 12, maybe even further, but I'm not sure. I would need to check that. Okay, so let's now, as I said, I don't know how to disable the taskbar in Launcher 3 without replacing the launcher. And as we just heard that, you know, most of MDM solutions do that. They just replace the launcher. So let's assume we will do that. So to get rid of that. So let's see one or two examples of different types of kiosks. So first, obviously, you have a multi-application mode where you have so everything is running, you have your own launcher and everything is running in an immersive mode. So you don't see, this is the picture in the back. You don't see the status bar, you don't see the navigation bar, you only see the apps the user is allowed to see. Maybe there's some settings or some way to get out of this or, you know, whatever, you can control that. But in this case, the user only has access to, well, really stupid scenario, to the clock and to the files, which is probably not what you would like to go, but this is definitely a multi-app scenario where the user can switch between those apps and do whatever is reasonable in those apps. So we are hiding the recents button. We still show back and home because you need to get out of the app in order to get into the other one. Some clients ask us for, you know, can we still be able to pull from the top, like to swipe from the top, just to see the time and to see if the network is there. So he can swipe from the top and then the status bar will appear. It will not be expandable, but it will be visible for a second before it disappears again. And this is a typical example for many like infotainment use cases, educational, healthcare, where students or whoever has one or two apps they need to work with and switch back and forth. So this is a very classical scenario. The simple, more simple way is obviously single app mode, right? So this is that's really difficult to see for you, I think, because it's small. But on the right side on the screenshot, it's an app which is showing a local train schedule. So it's a client who is having a device installed on his desk, and then it shows the trains at the specific train station. So there's a single app running on the device. It's running an auto start. So when the device is booted, the app is started, and everything is hidden. So the whole navigation is hidden, status bar is hidden. The user should not be able to leave this this application, and this poses another problem. So let's say something is not working and a technician comes by or something. So how will the technician leave this application if it's not, if there is no navigation bar, nothing, and you cannot actually get out of it, and you have no USB, obviously, and no ADB, and if you have no network connection, that gets really, really difficult. We were trying to work with gestures, like trying to draw something on the screen. It was working in recent versions of Android, not recent, in versions of Android like, I don't know, 11, 12, better. In the last ones, they basically cut out all the permissions. So it's really, really difficult to get notifications inside your own app to enforce exit here. So if you have cool ideas, or if you have a way to do that, that'll be really interesting in learning how people are solving this. We usually solve that by telling the people that the application must provide some way of exiting. That's the only way I know about. And finally, another very obvious thing is web view, right? So that's basically also a single app application where you have a single web view inside the application. And then you log down to a specific website. Here I chose AOSP devs for obvious reasons. So you can navigate through the links. Theoretically, you could get out of the website and go somewhere else, depending on how well the website is implemented. Or you start implementing some guards and do some blacklisting and see, oh, the user wants to navigate somewhere which is not allowed, so I'll block that and return him back to the main page. Here as well, you don't want the user to see any navigation bar and anything. So that's a pretty simple way, but many of our clients are actually using this type of kiosks in their situation. So that's it. A very short overview, and I'll be happy to discuss that and hear about your experiences with kiosks so far.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Igor. Who has a question? I see Stefan has his hand raised.
No, I was just clapping.
Oh, it's a clap. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I see.
No question directly. Yeah.
Clap for me as well.
I have one.
Okay, go ahead, Victor.
Hi, Victor.
So regarding the non-leavable app, is it really no connectivity whatsoever? Does even the app have no connectivity to internet?
It depends obviously on the app, but many of our clients have like private networks where they show like where the app is loading data from the internal network. So there is no MDM, there is no remote connection. Sometimes we tell them that if it's only internal, maybe you can think of ADB or something else, keeping it open. But then your own employees could just go into it because ADB is difficult to protect from. So then we rather go towards SSH or other connectivity options or VNC, but still VNC is still difficult if you only have the UI. I would prefer something. So we do definitely, there are solutions for exiting an app if you have network, but I would like to find a good one where you don't have to have a network, and I didn't find one so far.
Okay, a challenge.
Yes, again, one of our clients said that they managed to do that with us with gestures, but it's like a long time ago. It was like Android 11 or something, and I'm pretty sure that this was not working anymore.
I also guess that those devices are mostly not so super devices that have a lot of stuff, because what comes to my mind is to try to use some NFC or something.
Yeah.
That you come with, let's say some service enabler or some token, and with that you can exit the app.
Yeah, maybe.
Just an idea, because my only experience with Kiosk is from I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. So we had some spare time between the projects, and we're preparing some prototype. So the idea was to have the single application. And as I spent most of my developer life as an application developer, I had no idea about, maybe not no idea, but a very limited idea about the Android internals. But what we did, we were using Android Things, I think, at the time. And I was trying to use the device API management. I think it was called at that time enterprise management, something like that. So but the one from Google, there was an option to register some kind of the device policy manager or something like that. So you scan some QR code, and then there was an application. And as you said, all the challenges with those status bars and so on, I think it was kind of configurable, maybe not everything. But the issue is that at the end, we had some application, but at the end, the idea for the hardware was to use some devices from China. So it was not a solution at that time. And we were also investigating some other hacks for the for the status bar. Yeah, so I remember there were many ideas just to hide the expanded, so collapse the status bar. Yeah, so but it were the hacks. And funny fact, in one of the companies, we had some system for room reservation, and it was running on the on Android tablets. Yeah, it was supposed to be kinda kiosk mode. Yeah, but as you can expect, Android developers were going and trying to hack it, yet to go out of it. So at some point, most of those devices were out of the scheduling application, just running something others. So the solution was the hardware one. So to put it so no one can touch the status bar, the top bar.
That's what I said in the beginning, right? So
Yeah.
if you disable the touch screen, they have the perfect kiosk and all the inputs. I know that there is I forgot the name, task lock mode, something like that in the AOSP.
Task lock, yeah.
Yeah.
There was something like that.
We took a look at that many years ago. I would say at least 4, and it did not satisfy our needs, so we didn't look into it yet. Maybe there is some updates. Maybe they support many things now, which we would need. We would need to check that. But this is a contradiction, right? If you want to do a really, really good kiosk where the people cannot escape, then not even the maintainer should be able to get into it, because if somebody can get into it, then other people will also find a way to get into it. Especially if you work with tech guys, with smart people who take it as a personal challenge to break it, right? So that's
right.
how
It's
it works.
becoming a challenge, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Alan.
Yeah, you mentioned task lock mode. And my recollection is that the only improvement that happened to that was that the documentation was changed to say, to in any way imply that it was secure, because basically it isn't, and fixing that would be hard, and no one really cared. So yeah, not very useful.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the update.
I would have 2 questions. First would be, or do you have any fallback if the app actually is crashing?
That's a really good question. I will answer it and then I would rephrase it and say what we do, but the short answer is no. What the fallback is, since I said that we are replacing the launcher to get rid of that taskbar, our kiosk app is the fallback. So if the application is crashing, the user will get to our own launcher, which will prevent it from going further below, and then there will be an icon on the launcher saying, "Hey, you still need to open your app again if something goes wrong." But what many clients are asking for is, could you please restart my app if it's crashing? And this is where it gets tricky. So we need to detect if the app is running or not, if it was exited on purpose, or if it actually crashed. And I think we don't support that because we never found a good way of doing this.
I guess
Okay,
if
I understand.
sorry, if I could just butt in for a moment. If you're writing your own launcher, maybe that's not a problem actually, because the launcher automatically gets restarted, I think. So that's not an issue. I was going to say you could also do something by setting the persistent flag, but
then you lose the possibility of updates. If persistent flag is if you install a system level application, then you cannot update it. You have to only update it through an over-the-air system update. You cannot install an APK on top of it. I had this problem 2 days ago, and it was really painful.
It's all part of the security system. Yes, that's very true.
Benny, you had the second question, I think.
Yeah, I think you already answered it a bit, but so I was wondering, because usually on the devices there are more than 1 or 2 applications, so other than your customers' applications, how you hide the system applications or the other ones. But I guess because you use your own launcher, this is the answer,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Okay, yeah. Got it. Thank you.
So we are currently looking for a easier way of reusing the launcher 3 and just hiding the taskbar. I mean, you can do it through overlays, but it's a static way of doing it. I don't want to it to be static. I want it to be dynamic. So if the user wants to exit the kiosk mode for some reason, it should be like a regular device. But that's a bit tricky. So this is what we are working on. Maybe maybe there are other questions, but if not, this will be the transition into what we are working on currently. So we are trying to figure out how to hide that taskbar without a lot of effort.
So this is more of a comment than a question, but so I guess there are two use cases here, really. There is the use case where you are building the entire images yourself, and you can write system apps, and you can write your own launcher. And that's how I've always done, actually, Kiosk apps in the past, because these are mostly been for people who have complete control of the hardware, and they just want to. Mostly looking really for something that replaces Windows CE. So they just want a Windows CE drop-in. And then I guess the other use case is where you are buying off-the-shelf ruggedized tablet from Far East, for example. And in that case, you have the operating system there already, and you don't want to blast it to pieces. You just want to work with it. Am I correct that those are the two main use cases?
Yes. But even in the second one, if you have a client who's purchasing the tablet from Asia, if they're purchasing a lot, if they're purchasing large numbers, sometimes they can actually get the supplier to sign your app with their keys. And that means that then you get almost everything you get from the first one. So you can install your app on top, you can pretend to be a system level application, and then you can control everything on the device the same way.
Cool. Yeah.